Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Federation Nation. I am Anthony. This is Collectors Entertainment Network, and we've got the second edition of the History of WrestleMania magazine. We're going to get into that this week on Federation Nation. Alright guys, here we go. The History of WrestleMania, the second edition. A few weeks back, we looked at the History of WrestleMania 1 through 5, and this one goes up to WrestleMania 7, but of course it shows the 1 through 5 again. But before we get into that, guys, I'm going to ask you, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because I'd love to have you back. Please comment down below. Let me know if you had this magazine or any other WrestleMania or WWF memories you want to share. Speaking of sharing, share this video with anyone you think may like it as well, and go ahead and give this video a like. That helps a lot too. Also, go on over to Facebook, check out the Federation Nation Facebook group, join that, and go ahead and show your WWF collections, because I want to see them and everyone there wants to see them as well. Alright, let's just get into it. The History of WrestleMania, the second edition. Let's just go through it. Alright guys, here we go. WWF presents the History of WrestleMania, an exclusive pictorial history of the first 7 WrestleManias that shook the world. As we know, this is sort of the second edition. The first edition was 1 through 5. And up here it says includes many unpublished photographs. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, let's move that over so we can open it up. And there you go. It's an ad for WrestleMania 7 coming to the Hoosier Dome, Indianapolis, Indiana, Sunday afternoon, April 5th. Alright guys, and I don't know if you could see it, but I did write. February 26, 1992 is when I got it from News Center. I believe that was sort of the little newsstand that was in the Sunrise Mall in Massapequa, New York, the town over from where I grew up. Alright, introduction, WrestleMania, the official history. You've got sort of pictures from all different WrestleManias. I wonder if there's 7 pictures there. I wonder if there's one from every WrestleMania. Well, you got WrestleMania 2, right? You got WrestleMania 1. You've definitely got WrestleMania 3. Now, because you got WrestleMania 1 again, and you've got WrestleMania 2 again. That's 7. This is, I believe, 7, and I think, I don't know, this might be, I don't know, 5, I don't know what that one is. But no, so it's not one from each. Alright, so let's keep on moving. WrestleMania 7, Superstars and Stripes Forever. Alright, so unlike the last issue where they went in order, this one's going backwards. So we're starting with WrestleMania 7, which I guess is good, kind of mixes it up from the other book. Maybe they just wanted to have it be just a little bit different. Alright, Sergeant Slaughter versus Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship. Everyone remembers that. And of course, you had the Ultimate Warrior versus Macho King Randy Savage. I loved that match. I thought it was a great match. And of course, I mean, I was a little upset when Macho Man retired. But of course, you know, and we all know, he came back to in-ring action. Alright, the Hart Foundation versus the Nasty Boys for the WWF Tag Team title. I think that's when the Nasty Boys won the title from the Harts. Going back to the Macho Man and Warrior, remember that's when Macho Man lost and Sherry started attacking him, and then Liz, who was in the crowd, came up. That was such a great moment. And then, of course, everyone in the audience was crying. It was a great moment in WWF history. I remember it well, watching it live. Alright, Virgil versus the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. And if you look, there's Sherry. Man, she really, left the Macho Man and went right to the $1 Million Man just as quick as possible. So I'm assuming they kind of had that set up. But it was pretty neat to see it happen sort of live. There you go. All right, Mr. Perfect versus Big Boss Man for the Intercontinental title. Yeah, the Big Boss Man never won, so I guess Mr. Perfect either won or, lost by another way. But I don't remember. You guys remember what happened? I got to go back and watch this WrestleMania because I want to do a review of the magazine. All right, Jake the Snake Roberts versus The Model. And that was the blindfold match. And, of course, Superfly Jimmy Snuka versus The Undertaker in The Undertaker's first WrestleMania match. That was number 1 of the streak. You had Tino Santana versus the Mountie. Greg the Hammer Valentine versus Earthquake. Texas Tornado versus Dino Bravo. And Tenryu and Katayo versus Demolition. I don't remember them too much. You had the British Bulldog versus the Warlord. And the Rockers versus Barbarian and Haku. And look at this, climb into the ring, WWF Wrestling Challenge game. I want to get that. I've seen that in some of my other magazines. I want to get that. I guess I knew it existed because I bought these magazines back in the day, but I have forgotten it existed. And I don't have that game. I have the original, Wrestling Superstars game. I have the VCR WrestleMania game, but I don't have this Wrestling Challenge game. Got to get that. And what's this Superstars card game? I gotta look into eBay, look on the eBay, see if I can find that for a good price. Alright, and here we go, getting into WrestleMania 6, the Ultimate Challenge. Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior for the WWF Championship, but it was for the Intercontinental Championship too. I'm surprised it didn't say title for title. I also love this match. I think, I'm sure Hogan was sort of the general in there. Unless Patterson probably came up with the match, and probably it was up to Hogan to execute it. I don't think they put that on the Warrior. He was still pretty new. Hogan, he could give you what he could give you, and he could get it done. So I'm sure he was the one making sure it was happening in the ring. All right, the Colossal Connection versus Demolition for the WWF Tag Team title. That's when Andre finally turned back face. I believe that was his last match. I'm pretty sure that was his last match. Of course, Haku did most of the work. You had Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire versus Macho King Randy Savage and Queen Sherry. And Jake the Snake Roberts versus the $1 Million Man for the $1 Million belt. Pretty cool. Alright, Big Boss Man versus Akeem. I guess this was during the Boss Man's face turn going against his former partner. The Rockers versus the Orient Express. Roddy Piper versus Bad News Brown, and Hercules versus Earthquake. You got Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus Mr. Perfect, the Hart Foundation versus the Bolsheviks, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Dino Bravo. Superfly Jimmy Snuka versus Ravishing Rick Rude, and Tito Santana versus the Barbarian. Here, of course, is your order WWF Magazine subscription thing. Coco Beware versus the model Rick Martel. And here are your celebrities. And isn't that Diamond Dallas Page driving the Cadillac at WrestleMania 6? A little bit of trivia for you. That's who it is. I believe it's his Cadillac, so he drove it. All right, WrestleMania 5, the Mega Powers exploded. You've got Macho Man Randy Savage versus Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship. And, of course, they have a little insert of Roddy Piper with his return to the WWF after a 2-year hiatus. But back to the championship match. Also, you've got, Run DMC. There's some sort of WrestleMania rap that they performed. But again, back to the championship match. Hogan versus Savage. I got to go back and watch that match. It's been a while. I think I was devastated when Macho Man lost it. So I don't usually go back and watch it too often. But then again, I'd go back and watch Savage versus Steamboat when I was even probably more devastated because I was a few years younger and I was even probably more the Macho Man fan. But Macho Man was still my number one guy at WrestleMania 5. So I was devastated when he lost. But, the Savage Steamboat match is like, you can't not watch it. It's just a masterpiece. All right, Ultimate Warrior versus Ravishing Rick Rude for the Intercontinental title. That is where Ravishing Rick Rude won the IC belt. You got Jake the Snake Roberts versus Andre the Giant. Special guest referee, Big John Studd. He had been out of the Federation for a couple of years at that point. And then you got Demolition versus the Powers of Pain and Mr. Fuji. Although a handicap match, I do believe it was for the tag team titles. You've got Red Rooster versus Bobby the Brain Heenan. Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus Bad News Brown. The Hart Foundation versus Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine. And Rugged Ronnie Garvin versus Dino Bravo. You got Strike Force versus the Brain Busters. That's where Martel turns heel and betrays Tito Santana. You got Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. And the Bushwhackers versus the Fabulous Rougeaus. What else we got? We got Blue Blazer versus Mr. Perfect. The Rockers versus Akeem and Bossman. And Hercules versus King Haku. And that, I think, is probably going to do it. Here is your join the official fan club and subscribe to WWF Magazine. And there we go. We're going back in time again. WrestleMania 4, what the world is watching. The championship tournament. And, of course, here are your celebrities down at the bottom. You got Robin Leach. You got Gladys Knight. You got Vanna White. And you've got Bob Uecker. This is more pictures from the championship tournament. You got Morocco versus Dino Bravo. You got Jake the Snake versus Rick Rude. Of course, Hogan and Andre in the first round. The second round, I should say. And then you've got DiBiase and Hacksaw. Alright, there's more of Hogan and Andre. Again, they got a bye of the first round, so they just started the second round. There's more. There's some of what the Macho Man went through. Greg the Hammer Valentine. I think he also faced One Man Gang. And Butch Reed, I believe. I don't know if you see it in there, but I think that's who he faced before, of course, he got to Ted DiBiase to win the title. Yeah, the Honky Tonk Man versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake for the Intercontinental title. Of course, Honky Tonk Man comes away with the title. Strike Force versus Demolition for the WWF Tag Team title. Strike Force were the Tag Team champs, and that's where Demolition won their first Tag Team title. I believe Mr. Fuji either hit someone with a cane or one of the Demolition guys hit someone with Fuji's cane. Yeah, that's what it is here. It's right here. I think Fuji drops the cane, and yeah, there it is. Axis hitting. Yeah, you can see it right there. Axis hitting. I don't know. Martel, Santana, I don't remember which one. All right, you got Ultimate Warrior versus Hercules. And, of course, the 20-man over-the-top Battle Royal. That is notorious for where the Hitman Bret Hart finally turns face and goes on a little bit of a singles run. They kind of put him back in the tag team ranks for a while, but then eventually breaks out again. All right, the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware versus the Islanders and Bobby the Brain Heenan. And here's your official World Wrestling Federation 1992 Spring/Summer Merchandise Catalog. You've got your Hulk Hogan page, everything the Hulkster. Who's on the next page? Oh, you've got Macho Man Randy Savage page. You've got a Legion of Doom page. What else we got? We got Superstars, so it's sort of just all the rest. Sid Justice had his own pillowcase. Of course, you've got Undertaker, Bret to Hitman, Hart. Hitman had sort of a tank top and also had a poster. What else we got? We got Kids Corner. Look at that. You got baseball mitts. You got, of course, the Toy Championship belts. You've got Halloween costumes. You got a Hitman teddy bear. Pretty cool. Wish I had that Hitman teddy bear. That'd be awesome. You've got novelties, of course. You've got your sort of like party thing for when you had a birthday party and it was WWF themed. It came with the cups and the tablecloth and the napkins, all that good stuff. And of course, this is really cool. I want to get this comforter and sheet set. That would be awesome. And of course, here is your tent. And see, it's camp out. Yeah, you got a tent, the flashlight, and a sleeping bag. Here is your order form. And then I think it's going to be, back issues for WWF Magazine. And we keep going. All right, look at this. He used to be just a world champion. Now the Hulkster rules the universe. Hulk Hogan is the Suburban Commando. Obviously, this is the ad for the video cassette release. And 1-900-454-HULK. Guys, I would not call that number if I was you. You don't know what you're going to get now. It's been 30 plus years. All right, let's continue with WrestleMania. And, of course, WrestleMania 3, the Hulkster battles the Giant. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant for the WWF Championship. There are some of your celebrities. You've got Bob Uecker and Aretha Franklin. Of course, Mary Hart was a celebrity, too. I don't know if she'll show up in some other pictures. But here you go. Andre versus the Hulkster. What a huge match this was. Guys, I was a kid. I watched this live. You don't understand the build-up. It was the biggest build-up. Now, granted, I was 10, so, I mean, I get it. But, you know, for a 10-year-old, these things are maybe bigger. But I'm telling you, it was just huge. All right, Roddy Piper versus adorable Adrian Adonis in Piper's retirement match. Of course, he would come back just 2 years later at WrestleMania 5. We all know that. And probably the greatest match in the history of WrestleMania. I don't care what anyone says. Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat for the Intercontinental title. It's weird how it says Macho Man Randy Savage and it just says Ricky Steamboat. It doesn't say Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. But, I don't know. What an amazing, amazing match, guys. And I, being the Macho Man fan that I was a heartbroken little 10-year-old watching Macho Man lose the title. The British Bulldogs and Tito Santana versus the Hart Foundation and Danny Davis. I love this match. I love when Davis gets in the ring and they just start beating him up. I think it's great fun. All right, Junkyard Dog versus King Harley Race. The Rougeau Brothers versus the Dream Team. Coco Beware versus the Natural Butch Reed. All of the matches at WrestleMania 3, I mean, for the most part, were just like either great matches or they were the culmination of a feud. Not all of them were feuds, but a lot of them were. You got Jake the Snake Roberts versus Honky Tonk Man. That was a feud starting when Honky Tonk Man hit Jake the Snake with the guitar on the snake pit. And, of course, Alice Cooper was there in Jake's corner, and he handled the snake. The Killer Bees versus Nikolai Volkoff and the Iron Sheik. And Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules. That was also a feud. That was the Battle of the Full Nelson feud. You guys remember that. Hillbilly Jim, Haiti Kid, and Little Beaver versus King Kong Bundy, Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook, and the Can-Am Connection versus Magnificent Morocco and Cowboy Bob Orton. That was a great match, too. That wasn't really much of a feud, but it was a great match, and it kicked off the event. Oh, look at this. Own the video cassette, the Royal Rumble 1992. Order yours today. Over 2 hours of WWF action. Just 2 hours. They edited it down to just over 2 hours. Interesting. I'm sure the pay-per-view itself was well over 3 hours. All right, here we go. WrestleMania 2, 3 times the action at 3 different arenas. Hulk Hogan versus King Kong Bundy for the WWF Championship. And, of course, that was in a steel cage, and that was from Los Angeles. That was the main event of the whole event and the main event of that card. You've got Susan St. James, Ray Charles, Kathy Lee Crosby, and Tommy Lasorda. Just some of your celebrities at WrestleMania 2. Here is more of Hogan and Bundy in the cage. I used to watch this all the time. Now, I was a fan, but at this time, but I didn't see WrestleMania 2 live. I did hear a little bit of it because I put on the channel and watched a lot of it scrambled, but I didn't see all of it. It wasn't until I was able to rent the Coliseum video that I got to see WrestleMania 2. And, of course, that is heavily edited, but it does have all the matches in their entirety. All right, and here is the end of the steel cage match. Hogan, of course, is victorious, and there is your Battle Royal. That was the main event for the Chicago portion of the event. And, of course, Andre the Giant won that when he threw Bret the Hitman Hart over the top rope onto the Anvil, who he had just eliminated right before. All right, in the main event for the Nassau Coliseum, the New York portion of WrestleMania 2, it was Mr. T versus Roddy Piper in a special boxing match. Here are some of your other matches on the card. You got Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. He wasn't the barber yet. Versus the British Bulldogs for the WWF Tag Team title. I really wish they would not do that. He wasn't the barber yet. You got Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff versus Magnificent Morocco. And Macho Man Randy Savage versus George the Animal Steele for the Intercontinental title. You've got Jake the Snake Roberts versus George Wells. And you got Fabulous Moolah versus Velvet McIntyre for the WWF Women's title. You have Corporal Kirshner versus Nikolai Volkoff. That was a flag match. And, of course, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Hercules. Now, he was Hercules Hernandez at the time. But, see, they're going by what they were called at the time of the printing and not at the time of the event, which I kind of don't like. But anyway, Uncle Elmer versus Adorable Adrian Adonis. Tito Santana and Junkyard Dog versus Terry and Hoss Funk. And look at that, WWF magazine. I couldn't have cared less about the WWF back then. All right, WrestleMania 1. WrestleMania began a tradition of excitement and glamour. Hulk Hogan and Mr. T versus Roddy Piper and Paul, Mr. Wonderful Orndorff. And here, of course, is Hogan in the ring with Muhammad Ali. And apparently, that's the New York crowd. They threw a coffee cup into the ring, or a soda cup, or whatever it was, into the ring. There you go. All right, there's some more from the main event. And then, of course, Pat Patterson in there as the actual in-the-ring referee. And Muhammad Ali was the outside referee. I believe they made that decision like on the day or maybe a day or two before when they started talking to him and realized, I don't know if Muhammad Ali can handle, you know, it's a lot to be in the ring with these guys. So, of course, they put Patterson in there. Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd. And, of course, that was the $15,000 slam match. And, of course, here is another picture from that. Yeah, Tito Santana versus the Executioner, and that was the opening match, the first match in the history of WrestleMania. I don't know if there was a dark match. Was there a dark match before that? I mean, would that be considered the first WrestleMania match? It was on the WrestleMania card, if it even exists. I don't know if there was a dark match. A lot of times there is. But officially, technically, Tito Santana versus the Executioner is the first WrestleMania match. You got Special Delivery Jones versus King Kong Bundy. They don't even show you a picture of that because it lasted what they claim is 9 seconds, but it was more like 20 or 23 seconds, something like that. All right, Greg the Hammer Valentine versus Junkyard Dog for the Intercontinental title. And, of course, I believe, like, Valentine wins, but he's got his foot on the rope. Then Santana comes in and tells the referee he had his foot on the rope. And the referee decides to change his decision, and then he counts Valentine out. So JYD gets the win, but in a count-out form. All right, and of course, you have Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo versus Nikolai Volkoff and the Iron Sheik for the WWF Tag Team title. Ricky Steamboat versus Matt Bourne. At least they don't call him Ricky the Dragon Steamboat because at that point, he wasn't Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. That didn't take until a little bit later. And of course, Leilani Kai versus Wendi Richter for the WWF Women's title. And here are your WrestleMania results written out match by match, giving you all the results. There's WrestleMania 2, 3, 4. Turn the page for 5, 6, and 7. And, of course, the official travel agency of the world's most frequent flyers, TCA Incorporated. And here is the back of the magazine. You got Andre and Heenan from WrestleMania 6. Hogan, Macho Man, and Elizabeth from WrestleMania 4. You've got, who's that? Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I don't remember what that one's from. Or Warlord versus... Hold on, we just went through it, but I don't remember which WrestleMania that was. What did it say, guys? Remember? Let's look at it here. That's sort of the whole thing opened up, so you could see that cool cover and back cover. All right, so that is the history of WrestleMania 1 through 7. All right, guys, that was the second edition of the history of WrestleMania. Guys, again, I'm going to ask you, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please comment down below. Please like and share this video. All of that stuff helps a lot, and I definitely want to see you over in the Federation Nation Facebook group, and I want to see your vintage WWF collections. Show them off there. All right, that's going to do it for this week. The history of WrestleMania, again, the second edition. So that's it for this week. So until next time, guys, have a good one.